All right, so we're standing down here in the Mary Duke Biddle Rose Garden, and the rose garden is receiving a renovation. We had mostly roses in here previously, but we're facing the issue of rose rosette disease, and we realized we had to have a change. So we're taking the opportunity to experiment with something new. And I've got Mike Owens and Jan Watson here, and just wanted to talk about kind of what we're doing, and just to share some of the information about the rose garden, or the new rose garden. So tell me about the inspiration, because this look is very different. Tell me about the inspiration, and then kind of maybe about what we got going on.
Last summer we took a trip to England, historic gardens crew, along with Bobby, director of horticulture, and one of the intents was to look at how they were treating different types of ways to use roses. And there weren't a whole lot of pure just rose gardens. Most of the rose gardens were roses mixed into different types of beds. Some of them were beds with a lot of different plants, such as grasses. The palms occurred a lot.
Yeah, so they were different. They were very unique. They weren't just a traditional,
right,
100%
right.
rose garden.
Right. The idea was that when the roses have their peak, usually in May, that they kind of just disappear into the other beds. They're still blooming off and on throughout the season,
right,
but they're not the main focus of the bed.
Right.
There could be a lot of roses, but there are a lot of companion plants with them to make the garden the season a lot longer.
Exactly.
So you had things going all the way from early spring all the way into the fall and even winter.
Exactly. So Jan, do you remember some of your favorite gardens where you saw some of these ideas? Or
yeah, I think the Beth Chatto garden, the parking lot garden, is kind of some of our inspiration for these three beds that we have going on
right
now. I think it softens the rose garden a little so that it's not so much hardscaping.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a great technique we saw, where they basically did take an old driveway, left the gravel in there, but had planting areas, and let the gravel kind of run back up underneath the plants. And it was just a really interesting blend of hardscape or hard surface to plant material, and it all seemed to kind of bleed together. You couldn't really see where the edges were, but the plants were kind of creating the space, which was really nice. So I love that garden as well. I love John Brooks's garden too, at Denman's.
Yeah, we took inspiration there with the boxwoods that we put in the beds. So they're very trimmed, and we're going to keep them that way. And then you have it like juxtaposed with our style here is going to be more of a naturalistic sort of meadow with a lot of grasses that are going to tie the beds in. So it's going to look a lot different than our block style that we have now in the perennial border.
Then you have these bold textures of, like I said, the boxwood. The forms are really amazing. Tell us about some of the other the bold texture plants you got in here. Mike and Jane, y'all can both jump in.
Well, one of the primary plants you see there is the Yucca rostratas. Those are very, very unique and interesting texture. They contrast really well with foliage of just about anything. We have windmill palms. Both are very hardy in our zone, here in Zone 7. And they form a really nice structure. And down on the lower areas, you'll see some of the agaves, such as the agave avatifolia, which is one of the hardiest agaves, along with some of the native North Carolina opuntias, which are the prickly pear cactus. So they're giving you some really nice bold textures to contrast some of the finer textured plants. And these lower screen garden areas, like Bobby said, were to eliminate a little bit of the path area. This is such a large area where we don't have a lot of plants, and it really softens the lower area of the rose garden.
Exactly, Mike, and you said something about we want to extend the season. Jan, tell me about some of the perennials that you've got going on that will kind of give you that show beyond the typical rose season.
Well, our main concern Summertime isn't necessarily a problem. We always find a problem later in the year. So fall and winter is when we really wanted to extend our season. So some of the sedums, and then you don't see them now, but there's going to be a layer of grasses around all these plants. It's called matrix planting. So the matrix is the grass. So they'll be very short, and so that way in the wintertime, it'll be pretty much a mass of grasses in here so that we don't see bare ground.
That's going to be beautiful, especially with all the evergreen architectural features of plant material that we've got in here now. That it was before, it was all just roses that would get cut back in the wintertime, and that was it. Not very exciting, but now it's gonna have another dimension to it all through the year, which is yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm really pumped about this garden. So could be a good one. So
one of the important things that for choosing the plants that we chose was the compatibility with roses. We didn't want to use overhead irrigation a lot because we're not spraying these roses with fungicides. So for black spot and powdery mildew, which are probably the worst diseases on the roses in our area, we picked plants that don't require a lot of irrigation. So it will be very minimal in this planting.
yeah, I'm glad you brought it back to roses, because we really were talking about all the other plants. We
Right.
do have roses in this garden.
Yeah, we
and,
picked
not as many as before, but there are roses here.
Yeah,
So
we picked the best roses that we've tried well over 100 different varieties of roses, maybe close to 200. And we picked the best of the best, the ones that held up the best in our heat and humidity without defoliating in the middle of the summer, and that had the best looking foliage and the best blooms.
So we can't wait to share this garden, and can't wait to hear what everybody thinks about it. So we're going to keep working. See y'all.